Hi, and welcome to a new episode. Today's topic is about how travel is the key to thriving. And our guest for this episode is Sahara Rose De Vore. She is a wellness travel coach and the founder of the Travel Coach Network, a global community of travel coaches. And Sahara went from broke college student to traveling to 84 countries solo, to becoming the CEO of her travel businesses. She believes that there is more to travel career than just blogging and booking trips, which led her to creating the world's first and only ICF accredited certification program for travel coaches. Sahara is a published author, global speaker, TEDx speaker, and has been in over 130 media outlets for her travel and business expertise, including Forbes, Travel Weekly, Condé Nast, Traveler, and USA Today. And today is her second time in the Solo Female Traveler podcast, and such an honor to have you back. And as I told you at the beginning of the interview, I was so nervous to have you the first time, and I'm very, very, very happy to have you back.
Oh, thank you. I am so happy to be back. I feel like it was so long ago, but at the same time, not that long ago. So time really does feel like it flies by, but I always love talking to you, Lou.
Same. You definitely are. You're a role model to me and someone I look up to. So thank you so much. And Sahara, so to start the interview, can you tell us about your background and your experience with travel?
Yeah, of course. So I was not, even though I've traveled so much now, when I was younger, I would never have thought that was going to be my life or that travel would be a big part of my life because when I was younger, it wasn't a big part of my life very much. I grew up as an only child to a single mom, and we were in a middle class household where we didn't often even have food to eat. And if I didn't eat at my grandmother's house, we didn't have dinner for the night. And no one in my family talked about travel. No one traveled for business. Our extension of traveling was my grandmother's originally from Mexico. So we would go in our family van from Wisconsin down to southern Texas, where a lot of her family lived. And then we would go over the border to Mexico to visit her family that lived in Mexico still. And then my grandfather's family was from the French region of Canada, and we would do those road trips too up there. But I don't remember that much of it. Canada, I don't remember at all, but I remember bits and pieces of my Mexico trips. But that was my extension of traveling. And I also had the mindset, just like a lot of other people, which is that traveling is expensive, that it's a luxury, that it's something that will take a bite out of the family budget. So you can only go once and maybe twice a year. And so I just never wrapped my head around how I would be able to travel or how other people travel. And it wasn't until I got into university, I entered a tourism and hospitality program in the city where you live in Chicago. I went to Roosevelt, and I also I never was someone who knew what my career path was. I have many different interests, a lot of different skills and talents, and I like trying different things, but I didn't have a focus for a career path for a very, very long time. And I had to choose a program when I changed schools, and I was like, hey, travel sounds cool. Like, who doesn't love to travel? I'll join this program and see what it's all about. And on the very first day, I was in one of my international tourism courses, and we had to go around the room and introduce ourselves and talk about the places we travel to. And, I shared my couple little stories of Mexico and Canada, and an all-inclusive I went one time at age of 15 in Dominican Republic, but then everyone else was like from Europe and Asia, and they were sharing all these 10, 15, 20 countries they've been to, and my mind was blown. And it was in that moment that I made a pact with myself that I was going to figure out, as this broke college student living in Chicago, how was I ever going to be able to afford this? And, I set that goal, and upon graduating, I packed that bag and I bought a one-way ticket to Ireland, and I just never stopped from there.
You booked one-way ticket to Ireland, and then what happened from there? Because when was that moment you were like, okay, instead of going back to the United States, I'm going to keep traveling? Like, what happened?
Yeah, so I didn't think I was going to continue traveling. I had the mindset that I was going to go do what I had always heard of, which is backpacking Europe. And so I had the funds that I saved up and I finished school and I got rid of my apartment and I said I was going to go for a month and a half because that was the length of the Eurail pass that I bought at the time. I don't know if they really have those anymore, but so I was going to go for a month and a half, and I was 100% sure that I was going to come back and quote unquote figure out my life. I was going to figure out, did I want to go back to my hometown in Milwaukee? Did I want to go back to Chicago? Because there was a lot of opportunities in hospitality and tourism management in Chicago, but those jobs just didn't align with what I wanted to do and how much I wanted to travel at the age of 22. And I just knew, even though I didn't know what my path was, I just knew that I that sitting in an office and having someone dictate when I can go on vacations was not going to make me happy. So when I was traveling, I was like, I like the feeling of this. I like the feeling of I'm on my own. I'm going wherever I want to go, any day I want to go. I have the freedom and flexibility. It was bringing me joy. And, there's different reasons why we get bit by the travel bug, but that feeling helped me get bit by the travel bug. And I came home for the holidays. It was around Christmas time. And I stayed home for Christmas. And then I said, you know what? I need to go somewhere else, but I'm going to go somewhere warmer this time. And so I went to Central America for 2.5 months. And it was like I kept doing that. After that, I would go for a certain amount of time and I would come back either to Milwaukee or I would go back to Chicago for a summer to make money. And it was on and off like that for 10 years and led me into the direction of the inspiration for my business, which brought me, a different sort of style of travel after a while too.
Wow. Okay. So I'm so glad you didn't continue in hospitality. I was in hospitality for 1.5 years and just like the schedules and just how heavy the work is. I'm glad you figured something out and now you're creating all these businesses for many women like me and the other ones and sharing all this information. So now relating to the topic of our episode, why travel is the key to thriving. I want to ask you, why Sahara? Why do you think people turn to travel for healing and growth?
Well, travel is, we as humans, we innately travel for very personal reasons, whether it's natural curiosity that we have, whether it's a feeling that that makes us feel more fulfilled. All of these reasons fall under the category of healing and wellness. And what I always found interesting was that throughout my years traveling, it took me a very long time to figure out what I wanted to do. I was very clear on what I didn't want to do. Just like when I knew I didn't want to go back or go to the corporate world, I was learning about all these other travel related jobs that I could do and also travel. I could be a flight attendant. I could be a travel agent or advisor. I could be a travel writer. I could work for a company that quote unquote paid me to travel for business. But I knew none of those aligned with my interests and what I wanted to do. And so I really dedicated those 10 years to getting to know tourism industry from my perspective. And I spoke with so many, tens of thousands of travelers over the years, asking them why they traveled. Either why did they quit their corporate job to travel because that was becoming a trend during my travel days. I asked them, why they were so envious of others who got to travel more often than they did, or why they went on a trip. And all these answers were very personal reasons. And that's what travel does to us. And for me, I thought it was interesting that tourism and hospitality industry, they don't talk about those underlying personal reasons. Everything is from a very surface level of how travel is quote unquote sold or booked or marketed. And when an industry like travel is so personal and emotional, that to me, I was like, there's so many underlying reasons why travel helps us mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, everything. And then I spent many years finding research on all of this to kind of strengthen my ideas, because it's one thing to feel or believe in it, and it's another to find actually information. And sure enough, there's decades of information on these various wellness benefits of travel. And that really has got me into where I am now and what I created because I wanted to bring that information and that perspective about travel to the surface.
Wow. Okay. And you are 100% right. All these reasons are personal. But before, when you were sharing with us about your story, you mentioned this joy that you felt when you were traveling. So, what are some personal examples that you can give us about your story and maybe your personal reasons as well?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I often don't talk about, which I don't intentionally not talk about, but it's so there's actually two reasons why I started traveling after university. One was because I was very underwhelmed by the options in the industry, so I kept on traveling to find my path and find what was interesting to me. But I have also struggled with really bad anxiety. And then in my later college years, I was also starting to develop quite a bit of depression. And I was working in the hospitality industry. I worked in the restaurant industry in Chicago for many years, and that's where I made the bulk of my savings for traveling. If you're in the right restaurant, it could be quite lucrative, which it was for me. But that whole lifestyle and schedule can take a huge toll on you. Plus, I already had anxiety. So I was just not in a very good mental headspace when I graduated. I felt very lost. I felt very, I don't know who I am. What do I want out of life? I don't want to struggle in an expensive city. I was helping my mom out financially a lot at the time, and that was a big burden on me. I felt like I had to take care of myself financially and someone else financially, but I also wanted to create a life that I wanted to have. And so I was just not in a very good headspace. So, did I know that travel was going to it didn't cure anything, but it definitely sure can help. And I didn't know how much it was going to help me. So when I was traveling, I was realizing that this was bringing me happiness. And I was on a search for finding my happiness. And travel was doing that by the places that I saw. I'm a nature person. I'm an Aquarius. So I naturally gravitate towards bodies of water of all different sorts. And there's actually a lot of research out there behind all of that too, which I didn't know. I just knew I had that feeling of calm and peace. And I don't feel so anxious when I'm here. And, that there's hope in life that I can create a life that I wanted to have. And I was struggling to have and find that before I started traveling. It's really easy for a lot of us if we're stuck in a daily routine or a community or a family or something like that that puts expectations or boundaries on you. It's hard for people to see the light at the end of the tunnel, to see that life could get better or that you will be happier. And I was in that headspace at 22, and travel was really helping me with all of that. And I was learning as I was going just how much it was helping me in different ways.
Wow. Well, I'm really, really glad that you didn't know it at the time, but then, as you were progressing and traveling more and more, you were finding yourself. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that, when you are in a community all the time and the same place, you kind of like have all these expectations to fulfill from other people. And that's something where travel really helps you to, remove yourself from that environment and be like, okay, like, who am I? What do I want? And what do I want my life to look like without expectations of other people other than myself? So, wow, I'm really glad. And you took 10 years to go travel to 84 countries and discover all these and more. That's great. So, Sahara, I want to get more into the specifics of these, because I read an article that you wrote for Thrive Global, and over there you shared that travel can help you thrive mentally, physically, and emotionally. So I want to start with the mental part. So how does travel help you thrive mentally?
Yeah, so there's a lot of science, and everything that I provide is based on research. My findings are not, I don't give medical advice, but like I said, for years, I spent collecting this information on these various wellness benefits. And going back to the example of me being an Aquarius, thinking I just really loved being by the water because I'm an Aquarius, there's a lot of research behind the mental health benefits of what they call blue spaces, bodies of water. lakes, ponds, streams, the ocean, waterfalls. And any of those I was just in awe of, and it just gave me a sense of inner peace. But traveling itself has neuroscientists and psychologists have been studying and finding the effects that travel has on our mental change itself. So, all of the different stimuli that we experience while traveling, the different sights, sounds, feelings, sensations, putting your feet in the sand, noises, all of that spark different synapses in our brains, which can help improve our mental health. The fact also, as simple as we are excited, we feel happier, we feel fulfilled. All of this also contributes to our overall mental health. The more we get to learn about ourselves, our confidence is building, we become better problem solvers, we become more, we hear incredible stories from other people or other people who live in the locations we travel to. Um, it's a combination of all of these can help with our mental health. And that's why we often hear people say, well, I need to escape. I need to get away. I need to reset. I need to go on a vacation and relax. Well, like, why? All of that falls under the category of trying to improve your mental well-being, your mental state.
Exactly. And that's great that you took the time to research this and to see all the researchers that are out there, because we just know, and then like we know we feel certain ways and we use arguments that are zodiac sign, because of our zodiac signs I feel this way, but it's good to have some research backing this up and knowing the reason, like why do I feel this way. It's no, like we all know that if we walk barefoot on the grass we feel better, but why, what is behind it? So I'm really glad that you are researching this and have information about this, and thank you for the disclaimer that you don't give medical advice so in this podcast either, so this is just about travel.
No, it's something that I mean, I do a lot of speaking. I speak a lot on travel and wellness and for different companies and different conferences and stuff. And I think from a business standpoint, for those who are listening as entrepreneurs too, you always have to just cover your grounds in any way, shape, or form. Even though I am a specialized or a certified corporate wellness specialist, anything in the medical world, the legal world, like anything like that, these are things you should have on your website. These are things you should have in your terms and conditions, like all disclaimers, everything like that. So from a business standpoint, that's why I say it.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Sahara, what about the physical benefits?
Yeah, well, think about the times that we go where we travel to, whether it is colder conditions, maybe it's like Norway or Iceland, or even just, the wintertime, let's say Western Europe, where there's outdoor markets, or it's a place where it's, sunny and there's bright green forestry everywhere. Traveling to different places encourages us to be more physically active. We want to be on foot to explore a city. We want to go for a hike. One of my favorite things to do is always to find a good viewpoint to hike to. So you're up above and you see a beautiful view below. So it just encourages us to be more physically active. But even outside of like the physical activity aspect of traveling, it's also the healthy food. There was a survey that the Global Wellness Institute came out with later last year, and they interviewed a lot of destinations, and asked them what did they see that visitors who wanted a wellness experience were looking for. And you would think that they would say spa and a fitness center, because that's very big ideas, or that's what's being talked about in the wellness travel industry. But instead, the top two things were local healthy food and then nature and wildlife. And actually, the fitness and the spas were at the bottom of the list. It was like 23% for those versus 56% each for nature. So being outdoors in nature, and also local healthy food. So local healthy food is also a benefit for your physical health. I know for me, one of the reasons I'm so attracted to, I would always go back to Southeast Asia, is because of the local healthy food. I would go to the markets. I have so many exotic fruits, and fruits that I don't even get to have here, or they're far too expensive here, or they're not as good quality because they made so far away. that it just encourages you to eat healthier. You are, want to feel better, you want to feel lighter, you want to try the food, the cuisine from, the local community eats. So all of this falls under the category of your physical wellness too.
Okay, so we are more active when we travel, either because the destination is colder or we hike or just, we walk, we're more active overall. And then also local healthy food that
Yeah.
actually that's like for me coming from Venezuela to the United States, that for me was a big shock, the food, definitely. And then when I travel as well, I'm just looking for those exotic fruits and vegetables and just like those homemade meals. I always joke that I say I'm looking for a grandma's restaurant. I just want, that little restaurant with a grandma cooking, and that the one that you can spend 2 hours there, and even the entire family from the restaurant ends up sitting up with you. Definitely is an experience. So now, Sahara, what about the emotional benefits?
Yeah, well, when we travel, we are exposed to a variety of different sites and lifestyles and things, and that really can exercise our emotions. So whether we are going to countries, I know for me, for example, traveling to Southeast Asia or South America or countries where there's a lot of stray dogs really exercises my emotions. But there's a lot of research that shows that how travel can build your empathy and compassion, whether it's for wildlife, whether it's for people. You gain new perspectives and appreciation for different ways of life, emotional standpoint of even just the effects that nature can have on you too. People go to Japan and go forest bathing, and that's a whole different emotional and mental health experience that they have too. So think about the times that we travel and how that has made us feel internally by what we saw, what we experienced, and then we take that back and we gain gratitude or appreciation, or I know for me, a lot of it, I'm like, I wish I had what other countries had and what other communities had too. Or we're also grateful for what we don't have to go through or what we don't have to do or that we do have in our country too. So all of that falls under the category of your emotional state too, being able to connect with other travelers, people from the destinations you visit, hearing stories. Storytelling is big in travel. And so all of that too just relates to your emotional growth.
Got it. I remember during your TEDx talk that you mentioned this girl that was 15 years old that you met in Cambodia. Can you share with us about that story?
Yeah. So my first time to Southeast Asia, I was in Cambodia. I went to Siem Reap, Angkor Wat and Siem Reap, the temples. And I was just walking around one day, and there's quite a bit of tourists there. But I went into one of the temples and I heard a voice, like a pretty voice singing. And I was following where the voice was coming from. And I looked down, and it was a younger girl, about 15, 16, I think 15, squatting down on the ground, and she was lying down different like magnets and pictures, postcards too, on the ground for the tourists to look at and buy. And she had headphones on and she was singing. And I looked at her, and then she looked up at me, and we both smiled, and she took off her headphones and we just started chatting. And she spoke great English, but she was from Cambodia. So we just talked a little bit, and then I heard her talking to someone else, and I noticed that she was speaking Russian. And then I heard her talk to someone else, and I noticed she was speaking Spanish. And I went back to talk to her, and I was like, how many languages do you know? And she's like, I've been working in the temples ever since I was young, because I help my family after school every day to make money. And she said that they usually make maybe $20 a week is what they get, which is crazy to think about. But she's like, I learned all these languages by talking to tourists over the years. She didn't go to school to learn languages. She didn't, learn on her own on online. She was talking to tourists. But then this girl was so freaking smart. She started, like, any country that she knew the language of. So like, for example, Russia, she could tell you the population, the capital, who the leader is, and she would say it for the US, for all these other countries, Germany. I was just in awe of how smart this girl was. But in that moment, and why I was talking about it in my TEDx, was because here I am and here she is. Because what she also told me is that her hopes are that she could save money so she could build a school and she can help kids in the community learn English better, because she was talking about how there was corruption in teachers teaching English in Cambodia. And that was her goal. And to me, I was like, here I am, who's, you know, I'm older than her, but we're two young girls. We both have dreams and goals and love for our families and love knowledge and exploration and worldly discoveries. And so that two people from two different parts of the world, two different cultures, two different belief systems, two different everything can really have a lot in common. And that there speaks how we really are very much alike in this world, and that, you know, having compassion and empathy and understanding and acceptance of one another can really make this world a better place.
Yeah, I really wanted you to share that story because it really hit me, because also during my travels I have met so many people that were more similar than you will think of, and also it developed so much empathy in myself, because I think that here I am in the United States with all these resources, and sometimes I feel that I'm not making as much as I should with all the resources I have available. But then I meet all like these kids or other people that they put in so much effort, and they, you know, just to make $20 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it really makes you think about how fortunate you are, and really, so
yeah, and it builds for me at least, and I know for those who I take traveling with me, so like my mom who's been to countries where they don't make as much money, but they work way hard, and they don't complain about it. But it also helps. I know, like, I am very fortunate for everything I have in my life and the life I was born into, and the country I live, despite there's, our country having our own issues here. But I think we should all be very grateful for whatever it is that we do have, because someone else might have it a bit worse. Doesn't mean that they think it's worse, which is not a bad thing. But just being able to, I try to be as generous and helpful in anything I can, even if it's, I go to the restaurants now, and I know I'm biased because I used to work in restaurants, but I'm a very generous tipper. I know how hard people work and how, I don't know, I just travel has really impacted and shaped who I am in pretty much every aspect of my life.
Yeah, same. That's for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Sahara. And also, now I want to ask you how travel can help you thrive professionally. You have shared bits of your story with us, like how you went from a broke college student to travel, and how you went in the hospitality industry. But from the research that you've done, and also from clients you have worked with, and also your personal story, how do you think travel can help us thrive professionally?
Yeah, I mean, in general, travel can help bring new ideas. I mean, I know for me, from my personal experience, travel helped lead me to what I've created in my businesses. And had I not traveled, I would not have that idea, because I was exposed to the world of travel. I talked to travelers. I saw the changes in the industry. I saw the rise of technology. I saw the rise of digital nomads and people quitting their job and traveling the world and quitting the 9 to 5, all these trends. So over the years, I got a very good overview of everything that inspired me. So travel can open your eyes to different ideas. It can give you new inspiration, different experiences you have. I know that my friend Jessica Blatter, who is the founder of Kind Traveler, she was inspired by a trip she went on with her partner to Belize. And this is when they were just travelers, and that inspired the stray dogs and helping the animals, inspired her to create Kind Traveler, which now she partners with hotels to be able to give back and make a donation of local charities. So had she not had that experience, she wouldn't have that idea for her business, just sitting from home or working in her home country or whatever it might be. So not only that, but there's a lot of research out there that how travel can spark creative ideas, innovation. There's a lot of examples that think about all of our great writers. Mark Twain back in the day were inspired for their writings through travel. The Kevin Systrom, the creator of the Instagram filters, was inspired when he was on a vacation with his partner in in Mexico on the beach. So nature and all of these things can help inspire us, but then it also goes back to the changes in the brain. So having these different sight, sound, sensations, really exercising our senses can spark different synapses in our brains and help us be more creative and help us, see things from different perspectives. When it comes to business, I talk a lot in the world of business travel and business travel well-being. And even that with productivity, think of like if we're at our computer or in our office all day, like how productive can we really be? But spending some time outside, going out for fresh air, going for a walk by a body of water, sitting and having a coffee with a local, all of these different things can inspire you to go back to your work and do the best that you can, be more productive. Maybe it's a change of scenery, maybe it's new ideas you have. I know for the whole concept of business travel itself was to be in person and to build relationships, and sales happen better that way. That's why people meet in business, but that all kind of got lost. And this is a whole different topic. But that just shows why it was started in the first place. Travel and the connection that you can make makes a bigger impact than doing sales or doing business from afar.
Got it. Okay. And actually, as you said that, there's a book I have in front of me right now that from Robin Sharma, and he always say that, when you feel uninspired, just go travel. And actually, every time he goes write a book, he goes to Italy, to this villa, just to be there and get inspired. So we get so much inspiration when we're traveling abroad, for sure. So Sahara, I cannot let you go without asking you for a final thought. So can you please share a final thought with us about just anything?
Yeah, I mean, since a lot of your listeners are solo female travelers, I really think that what I always like to empower and inspire and hope to inspire people do, especially girls and women, is to really create the life that you want to have. And that includes the business that you want to have, because the industry puts boundaries up about what is possible or what's been done before. If there's something that you believe in enough, if there's something that you love enough, if there's something that you have an idea for and you're passionate enough about it, run with it, create it, build it. Don't wait for someone else to give you approval, to give proof of it. I hear that so often. Like, can I see examples first? Had I had that mindset, I would not be where I am as a wellness travel coach in the corporate world, and I would not be the founder of the Travel Coach Network and it being built into what it is today. So listen to your gut, just like you do traveling. As females, travelers, we have to listen to our gut instinct all the time to keep us safe. But it's the same thing for life. If we really are in control of our own life, and if there's something that you want or a certain way you want your life to look like, you don't have to have all the answers right now for it, but at least like have that vision in mind and go for that.
That was a great final thought. Thank you so much for that. And no, definitely. I was talking about that with another guest. We were talking about the impossible, and I just tell her that I told her that if you get an idea to do something, it's because you have the power to make it possible. So we get ideas that no one else gets. You get the idea for the Travel Coach Networks and the other businesses you have, and no one else did. So you made it happen. You just were consistent, work hard, and here you are right now. So thank you so much, Sahara, for that final thought. And for anyone listening that wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, you can find us at the Travel Coach Network on Instagram, Facebook, or thetravelcoachnetwork.com.
Okay, I will make sure to put the links to your social media and your website on the show notes. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks for having me.